I'm Nick. I am the songwriter for Monolith Zero. I play guitar, I play bass, I write drums. I don't play them. And it's been my musical project for a number of years now, since 2015. And for me, it's been my creative outlet and the way that I'm able to express myself and my emotions to the world in a way that I like. My musical journey started back when I was really young. Like I had started trying to learn how to play guitar when I was like 10. I remember I got a guitar and I was like, oh, I like Green Day. So I really wanted to learn how to play Green Day things. So I learned how to play a power chord and like an A chord. That was about it. That's all I knew. And then I tried my best to do it and it just wasn't working. But eventually, when I started high school, I started playing drums. And that's when music started becoming like a real kind of feasible thing for me. Tried starting a band, tried writing my own music. It didn't really work. But I played for a really long time. I played for about 4 or 5 years. And then when I went off to college, I couldn't bring my kit with me. So I decided to learn how to play guitar. I figured, well, maybe I'll get laid. I didn't, but I tried. Trying to learn guitar a second time, and I tried to learn all the scales and all the modes and how to play in D melodic minor. And I wasn't able to figure out any of that stuff. But eventually I started playing guitar like in OpenC. I taught myself how to play, and I wrote a lot of music and made an album that is admittedly pretty terrible, but it was a start for a lot for me. Because I made that album, I was able to get myself back into school, able to just fulfill a lot of dreams and ideas that I had that I was able to just get out finally, that I've been trying to do for, since 2010. And my name is pretty hard to pronounce. My name is Nick Eustaquio, and it's got an E in it. It's got a Q in it. It's just hard. So I decided to go by the name Monolith Zero because I liked I wanted to call it Monolith, but everybody and their mothers has something called Monolith, right? Well, not everybody and their mothers. Everyone that it's like trying to be an edgy musician has a thing called Monolith somewhere. And then I like the concept of zero. I'm a really big fan of Mass Effect, and it's a reference to the character Jack, who is Subject Zero. So I figure, oh, Monolith Zero, right? But it's come to mean the concept of everything and nothing, where monolith is everything, right? And then zero is nothing, like yin and yang almost. But from a human perspective, the concept of Monolith Zero, it's the first person perspective, right? Where we as humans, everything that we experience, everything that we go through is of utmost importance because we're the only thing that matters at the end of the day. But the grand scope of it is that we don't matter. None of everything, that nothing matters, And it was that type of concept that led me to make what I make and to continue to do what I do because, yeah, everything is of utmost importance to me. And at the end of the day, nobody really cares for me or nobody really cares about what I have to say. So I'm going to say it because I want to say it. My creative process is really vision-based. I have a clear goal in mind of where I want to go with everything that I do. And as I go along with making each record or each song or whatever, I sort of whittle down what it is that I'm trying to say. I start with a really broad idea. And over time, as I work on it, like I might be deep into a mix and I might say, well, this song is starting to represent where I want to be in life, where I want to go. And I didn't realize that up until this point, right? This is the last song on the record that I'm writing. And so I'm learning this lesson. I take a lot of pride in my creative process because of how personal it is to me. My creative process now is more vision-based than ever. I've been making music long enough now to the point where I don't have to think about it. To the point where I can just kind of feel what I feel, and then it just kind of comes out. I don't have to think about, I want this to sound like this. Or like, I want this to sound like this band. Because I've been there already. I've done that. If I want to do that, I know what I can do. And I don't think any more beyond that. But my process in the past has always been like, I'm just trying to get to point B kind of as fast as possible. Because I want to learn what I want to learn. And it doesn't get there fast. I usually take a bit of time to do it. But now I'm able to get to point B, which is, making it sound the way that I want to. And now I'm trying to get to point C, which is now I'm trying to feel something with what I write. And I'm trying to get the person that I am, who's listening to what I have to say, to feel what I feel. And through just knowing how to do the job, I am writing with that sort of goal in mind. I'm writing with the intention of putting everything that I can into the music to make it be as right and as accurate as possible to the feeling that I'm trying to elicit. Well, I think if I'm going to start talking about the Great Calm, I want to talk about just how it came to be, right? So the initial concept of what it was. The Great Calm was supposed to be a record about the ups and downs in life and finding and being content with the middle, right? You go up and you go down. You have highs in life and you have lows in life. And then finding your center, I guess, was the original concept of what it was about. I took a year off from writing because I didn't have anything to say. And I decided that the Great Calm, the name, was going to be about, okay, well, the year that I'm not doing anything, that's the Great Calm, right? Whereas my musical life up until that point was just like, I can put out a song in a half hour, I can write anything I want. And it just kind of like just bang, 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 bang. But I wasn't happy with it. I wasn't happy with that process. I wasn't happy with the music that came out of that. It felt like I was forcing myself to do things for the sake of doing things and not necessarily for the sake of me wanting to. So me taking a year off also was a way for me to sort of reset myself. And because I wanted to change how I wrote. Like in the back of my mind, I was always like, oh, I want to stop writing pop. Stop writing pop. And I went from writing, 4 or 5 minute mainstream metal pop songs to The Great Calm being an hour-long piece of progressive metal that never stops. It's just one big, long piece. Anyway. I told you I was going to do it. So it's one big, long piece of progressive metal. And it does have ups and downs. It has calm moments and it has moments of just sheer brutality. But what made me want to write it was life, really. I'd taken enough time off where, like, I wasn't not playing music. Like I took time off also because I was playing live in a band. I finally got a band together to play the music that I'd written for the past 4 years live, which was incredible. That took a lot of energy because I didn't know how to do it. Never played live before in my life. I think the first show that I played, like, I must have sweated through that fucking shirt like nobody's business. But it was great and it was a lot of fun. But taking a year off was just kind of just like reset myself in a way. And when I started making music is because I was feeling a lot of more things. I was feeling things that I wanted to tell people about that I didn't know how to. And I guess that comes from being just an emotionally stunted individual. But, just going through adolescence at the age of 23. But that's how I was feeling. So I got it out the way that I knew how, which was music. Ocean in the Sky is an ambient piece. It's supposed to represent a servicing of emotions, right? As I said before, I took a year off from writing. I took a year off from writing because I wasn't feeling anything I needed to write about. So when I did start making music again, and I had formulated the idea for what this was going to be, I decided that I needed a piece to articulate the servicing of emotions and coming back to being a human. So the concept of water is introduced straight away in Ocean in the Sky. Water permeates throughout the entire record, but it starts with Ocean in the Sky. And you start off underwater. And it sort of sounds like there's like a dolphin sound that I made, and it sounds like you're underwater. So I took some 5.1 surround stuff and I mixed it down to stereo. So it has this weird sort of space that you put you in. And you start underwater, but you bob your way up. Like you go above water and you hear land. You go back down, you go back up, and you go back down. And eventually, you make your way to like an island, I guess. An island of the mind. But Ocean in the Sky was the only way that I could think of to give context to what comes next. Without it, I don't think that it would have made as much sense. And context is everything with this record. The songs that are on it, the pieces that are there, if you listen to them by themselves, they don't make as much sense. Like, they're cool. They're really cool things to listen to. But Ocean in the Sky, it also, like, because it's the beginning of the record, it begins the concept of, just being a part of the whole. It's just a moment in time. And without this happening, the next thing won't be as significant. Or the next thing wouldn't just make sense. Embrace is a song about literally embracing emotion. Following Ocean in the Sky and the surfacing of said emotions, Embrace is like a gentle little hug, I guess. But more than anything else, it's a decision to go down the path that I'm going down. It's about making the decision to open myself up and be okay with doing that. And, for better or for worse, following it. I have a vision in my head, now that you've landed on this island, that you start making your way through the forest. And at some point, you come across like a clearing where now you just sort of feel at ease with the fact that, you're searching through life to find meaning, and that you're searching through life for something. And then when you lay your eyes out on the rest of the island, that it makes sense. That life is beautiful in a way. And the only way to experience life fully is to open yourself up to it. Holy Infinity is the next part of Embrace. A lot of the ideas that I have with this record or they're like acts or moments, right? So this act is embrace holy infinity. So like I said earlier, with context, without the context of embrace ahead of it, where you're making the decision to open yourself up to the world and the beauty of it, and being able to experience the things that you haven't yet experienced. Holy infinity is you experiencing that. One of my good friends, Mike Rance, was correct when he told me that when he listens to that song, he has the vision of a sun rising above an island. And on that island is everything, right? Everything that you could ever know, anything that the world has ever known. But now the sun is rising on that island, and it's your time to experience this. So Holy Infinity is literally me doing that. So after making the decision to open myself up to the world, now I'm experiencing a whole lot of stuff. And in a lot of ways, it's like a microcosm for everything else that's to come, where you're experiencing life on this island. Life as a human, life, experiencing the different facets of the mind. Without Holy Infinity, the record wouldn't have become what it became. I had the idea of Embrace Holy Infinity based off an experience I had. I was sitting in class one day, and I blacked out for God knows what reason, but I blacked out, and the only thing that existed to me was myself, the void, and the idea of doing things because I want to, and for that reason only. And it happened for 45 minutes. The best way that I can describe it to people is have you ever watched that episode of SpongeBob where there's Squidward, he's there's nothing and it's just white, and he's running around all frantically trying to figure out what the hell was going on in the void, why he was there? That was me, but the void was black, and then there was just thought. But I came out of that, and I immediately wrote down Embrace Holy Infinity, right? And when I wrote those songs, Embrace and Holy Infinity, I wrote them with the idea in mind that I was doing it just because I wanted to make those things. I wanted to make something that was quiet and calm, embrace, right? And I wanted to make something that was just really epic, with a guitar and a whole orchestra, and just a really big kick drum, and timpanis and shit. I just really wanted to do it, so I did it. And that idea really was what sparked me making the rest of it as well. It's what made me want to start talking about life as opposed to just retelling life. I wanted to talk about the things that I was experiencing because they was the most interesting thing to me at the time, and I wanted to talk about those things. I didn't know who I needed to talk about it to. I don't have a therapist, so I just, I probably could get one. They're kind of cheap. Insurance would cover for it, but why do that when you could do music, right? Call being an artist. So, yeah, that's Holy Infinity. And one more thing that I do want to add about Holy Infinity is there's a lot of nature in it. And I already had started talking about the concept of water with Ocean in the Sky, but it's really prevalent in Holy Infinity. What I had said, the lyrics in the song are all we are is water, all we are is light, all we are is water, rise beyond the tide, right? And I have rise beyond the tide in quotes because, well, that's something that people say, but to me, what I wanted to say with that, because it changes after a while. You go through this transformation in the middle of the song where you don't care about those things anymore. And it changes, the tone changes from rise beyond the tide to rise beyond the mind. And the last thing it ends up on is love, I love another life beyond the mind. And with those two things, rise beyond the mind and then love another life, what I'm trying to say is that life is more than just yourself. Life is about the world that you live in. And one of the goals that I had, even beyond making this record and making beyond, like, you know, all of it, was I wanted to appreciate the world more. I wanted to appreciate, you know, the leaves on the trees. I wanted to appreciate people for being people. I wanted to appreciate, you know, like, people make cars. Cars go really fast. That's like super cool, you know? And you don't think about those things, but I wanted to appreciate those things. I felt that I took a lot of, you know, I take life for granted a lot. And I wanted to stop doing that. And I wanted to appreciate where I was in the moment. And Holy Infinity, to me, represents that. So there's a lot of nature in there. There's a lot of birds. There's a lot of water. Water represents being human and in the moment. It represents, like, because we're 70% water, right? So then, you know, we are mostly water. I'm like partially true. Water is about the moment. It's about the present. It's about being human above all. So the joy of life immediately follows Holy Infinity. And it flows straight from the big epic ending of that song into this really sort of, I guess, subtle sound of the joy of life. And the joy of life, just, it's about feeling happy, and then, but feeling guilty about feeling happy. Because as a guy who's struggled with depression and anxiety for a good chunk of his life, and at least the good chunk of my life that I remember, I felt guilty feeling happy for the first time in a long time. So it's a really cheery song, except for like one note in the chorus where it turns to minor. And the chorus, the end, it ends up on, "Someone tell me why I've become so unhappy now." Because I didn't understand. It's like, well, I'm happy, right? So that's the end of depression. That's it. I'm done, right? I'm not going to be sad anymore. And I was doing everything in my power, like, to just forget about it. Forget about being sad. Forget about being unhappy. So that's what that song means. It's really, I was putting a lot of things in there that sound that I associate with being happy, right? So there's the birds, there's the beach, there's, like, you know, I really like rain. There's like a bunch of percussion and, like, you know, it sounds like the wind, and guitars are pretty, and it's all in like C, and I don't know, the vocals are kind of dreamy. But there's like things that I would associate with happy stuff. And it's just it's not. It's a really kind of depressing song when you think about it. Like fake happy in a way. So following the joy of life, there's a 2-minute just descent into I am. Following the concept of water and being in the moment, the water stops flowing and it becomes this really ominous, kind of mechanical sounding thing. Atmosphere, I guess, is a better word for it. And it's through those 2 minutes that if I'm asking myself, someone tell me why I'm so unhappy now, I'm asking myself. I'm the only guy on this island, so I might as well find out answers for myself. So for a long time, I've struggled with what I am and what I stand for, and what I want to be, I guess, right? Like the age-old question, what am I on earth for? And not that I found it out, but I have a better idea of it after this song. So the song is intentionally confusing. It's really chaotic. It's in 4/4, but it's really just, I don't know how to count it. other than just trying to feeling it out. But it's in a weird time. It's like, it's weird. It's just, everything about it is weird. But there's a pulse to it because it is 4/4. There's a pulse to it that eventually you find your way through it. And if you focus on the pulse, you get through it. If you start focusing on the other things, because it's like a swirling sort of track. If you let yourself get distracted by all the other things, all the other thoughts, all the other like things that make you go question life and existence, you end up in a really dark place. And I wanted to articulate that because I was in a dark place. And like I said, I was struggling with what I am and what I was, or what I wanted to become. And I had another weird connection with infinity at that point. And this time it wasn't the idea of holy infinity, it was the idea of I'm on earth to love and be loved. And through a lot of pain and a lot of suffering that I've just gone through over years, I don't think I would have come to that conclusion without it. So having a point in time where I revisited that for a little bit allowed me to come to the conclusion that my intentions are what defines me. My intentions are what makes me me. And with the intention of spreading love and being loved myself, I think that I found a clearer picture of who I am, or rather what I want to be. And through that, I was able to gain some sort of solace to the question that's been burning in my brain for 23 years. I turned 24 in like 2 weeks. It's weird. Getting 6 years away from 30. Right? But, 20s are when you have your existential crises. So, it's never going to stop. We'll be doing this again in 2 years, Andrew. But I am as a way for me to just sort of just stand my ground. It's the hill I'm going to die on. So following I Am comes Not Afraid, which is also the title of this here series, I guess, for lack of a better word, right? Series, documentary, interview, something. But Not Afraid is about me really just going to the world and saying, here I am, take me as I am, right? It's coming to the conclusion that I came to it, I am. Now it's about just the opposite of searching, because I know what I got, I know what I want. So now it's just getting to that point. Not Afraid is a really brutal and kind of overwhelming song. It's not kind of overwhelming, it is overwhelming. And I kind of styled it after like a horror movie in a way, with the jumps and like in volume. And it's supposed to just kind of hammer it home how passionate I felt about myself. Passionate I felt about being who I am, for being as passionate as about myself, right? It's a song that is... it has one of my favorite lyrics on it, where it's like, I don't know if you call it a chorus, but the best, one of my favorite lyrics that I've ever written, really. And it's, go where the fear is and lead with your heart, which I think is the theme of the record in every single possible way it could be. From a coolness standpoint, it's pretty cool because the way it comes across is very poignant. But it is probably the most honest lyric that I could come up with throughout the entire hour of it being what it is. And it's something that I live by. And not being afraid of fear, not being afraid of being afraid. It's got Godzilla in it, also Gordon Ramsay. So Mexico is through, like, just now on the record, you're about halfway through, and it's about a half hour. It's like, I don't know, 33 minutes or so. And then you come across Mexico. And Mexico is a vacation, because through this journey into the island of the mind, it's very overwhelming. Case in point with Not Afraid. So at the time that I wrote it, I was like, I just want to stop thinking about this. I want to stop like dwelling on this stuff. I need to take a break. So the way that I took a break was by making a song about going on vacation. So it starts with I found a record that's it's Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass, and the first song in it is South of the Border, and that song plays as you get on an airplane and fly to Mexico. And when you fly to Mexico, you land and you go to the beach, and there are kids and stuff like that, like a jam band. So the jam band it's just like the opposite of what the rest of the record is. The record is super just like dense, and there's like anywhere from 200 tracks, like 300 tracks on every single song. And then Mexico is just the opposite, right? There's just like maybe 2 or 3 guitars, and like I improvised the solo, and the drum tone is different. I had Brandon play bass on it. Like, it's just the opposite. There's no words. There's nothing else. It's just, you kind of just chill out and be there for a minute before you head back to reality. The water comes back in after the end of Not Afraid, because it's like, well, now I'm out of my own head, back into being a human, and back into living in the moment, right? So, I don't know, you just need a minute to breathe, or in this case, like 9 minutes, but that's what it's there for, and it's really important. Pacing on this record is everything. It's what makes it, for me, like, instead of it being an album of 10 tracks, it's an album that is just one piece. Because if I didn't take the time to give you a break after Not Afraid, and I just went into the next song, it'd be like overkill. It's like sadistic at that point. You need the break. And I needed the break. So if you're along the journey with me, your chances are you're probably going to need it too. Because if it's coming across the way that I intended to, it's going to make you feel really relieved when you put your headphones on, you listen to Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass. Red Herring is a fucking bitch of a track, let me tell you. And it's the most complicated of all of them. And similar to the way that The Holy Infinity was a microcosm for what the record is, Red Herring really is. Red Herring is a battle with myself, right? It's like the final boss, I guess, of the record, if you want to call it that. It's the last kind of act before you head to the epilogue. It's like 8 minutes long. It has, like I said, it's super complicated. There's just a ton of stuff going on there, and if I even began to tell you how many layers were in that, we'd be here for a lot longer than we have been, which has been quite a bit of time. Because I don't shut up. Anyway, it's really complicated, and it's really aggressive, but not aggressive in the way that's like malicious, but it's aggressive in the way that it has something to tell you. Similar to the way that Not Afraid is. Like, Not Afraid is very assertive. There's no like malicious intent to it. It's just kind of like, here I am, right? And Red Herring is the same way, but instead of me saying, here I am, it's, here's what you have to deal with right now. And it's a battle with myself above all else. For a long time, I was really afraid of myself, right? I had gone through depression, I'd gone through anxiety, and for me to face my fears in a manner that was so personal and just hard to deal with, it took a long time for me to do. When Red Herring started, Red Herring was the first thing that was written for this record. It started out as a demo. There was like a seven note challenge that myself and Brandon had signed up for, that we were gonna send to like Serge Tankian from System of a Down, because he was like, oh, you just use these 7 notes and you make a whole song about it. So I was like, cool, I'm gonna make black metal. And Brandon was like, what's the point of that? Like, you can send black metal to the guy that is in System of a Down. I was just like, I don't know, I just wanted to do it. So it sat for a little while, and then I added a little bit more to it. We added some things that were old, and like, I don't know, I just kind of worked my way through it. But it was such a long process, and I knew that it was going to be a struggle for me to articulate it, because I didn't know what it was that I needed to articulate. I didn't know what I needed to say. And it was through the rest of the record that I learned that the thing that I needed to talk about, the thing that I needed to take on, was myself. Having gone through depression and anxiety and having a lot of fears and having a lot of just hang-ups, you know, even though I say I don't have any, I have a lot. I think we all have a lot. And Red Herring was probably the biggest hang-up of them all, right? It's the hang-up of myself, my own brain. I was really upset for a while because the way that I think, I just start on something and I'll just go deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole. And it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter like if it's something stupid or if it's something like serious. I just follow it down and down and down, try and find deeper meaning in it. And I hated that. And it was a huge part of my own self-loathing. And part of the reason why I took a year off too was also just like, I want to be a simple dude. I want to stop doing this. I want to get up, go to work, go to school, do my homework, and do the same thing the next day, because that's what everyone else does. At least my age. You know, I don't have a family, I don't have kids, I don't have whatever. It's just like, I want to do that, because that's like, well, the simple life, right? I can stop thinking the way that I have. And it was like a force. I'm going to try and stop doing that. It's like self-imposed in a way. But then through Red Herring, I was able to like just tackle that and be like, you know, this is what I am. This is who I've always been. And if I'm afraid of that, then why even bother at that point? I should accept what I am. I should love what I am, because if I'm on earth to love and be loved, I have to love myself too. And in order for me to get to that point, I have to face myself, and I have to face the things that scare me the most. And Red Herring is about that. It's about vulnerability. It's about appreciation. It's about fighting just your innermost self, but the part of yourself that isn't looking out for you. So I just want to preface this by saying The Great Calm isn't actually a song. It is just a moment in time where, having gone through the incredible existential crisis that is Red Herring, you need a break. As with the rest of the record, there's sort of like a yin and yang element to it, where there's quiet, and then there's a heavy to match. And there's a quiet, there's a heavy to match. Red Herring is the heaviest bit on the record for me, both emotionally and probably objectively as well. And from that, you need an actual break. Even though you just took a break, you went on vacation, right? You went to Mexico. You still need another break. You need a moment to just be and sit and just let it, I don't know, marinate? Although marinate is like, it's when you're cooking the steak, but now you're done with the steak, so you're letting it rest. And it's just there so you can breathe. I lamented to one of my friends that I needed to make it nothing. That's kind of what it is. It's just a whole lot of nothing. But then again, I'm an artist, so what is nothing? But yeah, it's waves. It's I got you to laugh. It's waves. It's a moment to breathe, and that's all it is. Good morning is like the epilogue, I guess, of everything else. Like I said about matching like the yin and yang bits in the Great Calm, good morning is also matches that in a way. It mirrors the beginning of the record where you're embraced and you've landed on this island of the mind. And now you've conquered what you needed to conquer so you can enjoy what's there. It's a little bit bittersweet because now having gone through this entire thing, it's like, well, where do I go next? But through like Red Herring, you begin and then you end in the same place and you haven't really solved anything. But the thing is, you've learned a lot. I have learned a lot through the creation of this whole record. Learned a lot about myself. So now, good morning is you facing the same thing. You know, it cycles over. It has the same theme that it did between Embrace and Holy Infinity at the end of the song. And you're prepared to face the new day with the knowledge that you've gained from going through the things that you've gone through. Because there's a lot of heavy shit. There's a lot of like stuff that I had to deal with that taught me a lot. And now I'm still here. I'm still in the same place. Still 23. Still working the same job. I have a new guitar, but like nothing else has really changed, right? So yeah, you're facing it with the knowledge of the new day. And you've learned that through vulnerability and through not only being comfortable with who you are, but loving yourself for who you are, having that define the way that you attack the new day, what makes it a good morning. I chose Open C. I didn't really choose Open C. I started, like I tried to play guitar again, and I tried to learn it in standard tuning, and it's always been really difficult for me to learn like scales and modes and stuff like that, because it's not the way that it just didn't make sense. I'm like, I gotta do like the 5th fret and then the 8th fret, then the 5th fret and the 7th fret, then the 4th fret and the 7th fret. Then it's like all over the place, and it jumps back and forth, and it's not even and organized. I stumbled upon Devin Townsend when I started playing guitar again, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna try and learn one of his songs. It's pretty cool. And it turns out it was in Open C. So I turned to Open C, and I ended up just writing a bunch of songs in Open C, and I've been in it ever since. But the thing with Open C is that everything repeats, right? So there's like, it's C, G, C, G, C, E. So the first 5 strings, it's the same patterns, the same shape, same placement of notes, just different octaves. So for me, it made a lot of sense. And the dots on the guitar finally mattered to me. And if I wanted to play a chord, I could just do, bar, just one finger. I could do everything. Right? But I could do everything. And it made it super easy for me to get across the things that I wanted to get across. I started using Echo because of Devin as well. Really liked his tone. And a lot of his tone comes from Echo. But I started using Echo to, just the interaction of the present with the past, right? Because I don't know a lot of music theory, and I really don't. I know that the one thing I know about music theory is like if a chord shares a note with something else, like that's in key, right? But with Open C, with Echo, it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it, and I can just play, which is my end goal with everything. I just want to be able to play. So with Echo, it interacts. It's like the interaction between the present and the past, right? So if I am playing a note and it's a rubbing note, it's going to tell me it's a rubbing note for the next 20 seconds. And then I know next time, so maybe I don't go here. And because it's an open C, it's like, well, maybe it's not here, but maybe it's the next fret. Just another half step up. And it makes it really easy for me to write that way because I don't have to think about it. So my process this time around was, again, to elicit a feeling, to elicit like the thing that I wanted to get across. It was important for me to put as much as I could into the track or the song or just the record in general. The songs, each one of them ranges from, outside of Mexico, they all range from like 200 to 300 tracks. And there's an incredible amount of just like of samples, of like orchestral stuff, of guitars, of like vocals especially, that are going in each one. It doesn't sound like it, but the effect is that it hits you with a whole bunch of stuff, right? And what started with my demos is that I would have an idea like of like, it was like, this does this for me, right? And then what can I do to make this, until it feels right to me. But instead of taking stuff away like I would in the past, I just leave it, because if it's doing the job, like, why am I going to change it, right? So I would just keep adding and adding and adding. There are 3 different types of drum sets that I mixed on this record. I blended a bunch of them. There are, just I really can't even tell you how many samples are on there. There's so many samples. I try to make every mix a different world. I try to make every track a different world so that it is separate from the thing that came before. So like with the context and everything like that, when it hits you with the new thing, it becomes, that much more of an impact, that much more of, the feeling. And I think I did a pretty good job with it, not gonna lie. But it wasn't without a ton of work and a ton of time, patience. I almost feel my voice on this record. On like Holy Infinity, there's 80 choir tracks. And one of my friends, Maria, flew from Belgium, and we spent a couple of weeks together, and we worked through that entire thing. We recorded things in my house. We recorded things at the studio. And the effect is that, through all those vocals, like I could have just gotten a choir, but that would cost a lot of money. But through all the tracks and all the time and patience that it took to just do the one song, the effect is that it comes across like something that's way bigger than it is. My friend Mike was a part of that too. And between the 3 of us, like again, there's 80 tracks. So there's a ton in each one of them. And the effect is that it's the sum of the whole. It's the big picture for every single thing. So even if that requires me to just sit there and sing the same part 9 or 10 times, I'm going to do that if that's what it needs to be. So my bassist Brandon and my friend Matt, they also tracked vocals for the song Not Afraid. And that is also a similar sort of effect, right? As I need it to be a lot bigger than what it is. And me doing a death metal vocal, I sound like Super Grover. So Matt does the best metal vocals that I could possibly ask for. And Brandon, I just wanted to be on it because Brandon's my buddy. So, but that was another one. We did so many tracks, and there's a ridiculous amount of stuff that I did prior to it that when you add it all together and it's the sum rather than just the individual things, the effect is that it's really just a wall of sound that hits you with a force that is significant. It comes at you with the force of like a fucking truck. And there's no other way that you could put it. It's a big wall of sound, and the entire record is just like that. As far as just people, when I took the time out to do this record, I made it known that I was taking a break from doing, the things with people. I needed to do this by myself. I needed to do it for myself because it's such a insular and singular record. But I received a ton of support from people, even just people like reaching out and saying like, hey, like, I know you're doing this thing, but like, now that you're not doing the live thing, like, I'd love to make music with you sometime. Or, like, I'm really excited to see what you come up with now that you're taking your time to focus on this. And that meant a lot to me because I felt that at the time, like, I was striking it out on my own, and I was alone. But with all the support that I got, it meant the world to me to just keep doing what I was doing. Because I knew that if it meant something to me and it meant something to these people, and what I had made so far meant something to other people, then, there's no other reason that I wanted to do it. It was just so it could resonate with the people that appreciate me for what I am. So Brandon Sussman is my bassist. And I've known Brandon since about 2014 or 2015. I can't really remember. We met through Reddit, actually. It turns out we lived in the same place. We lived on Long Island, right? And he was into the same music that I was. He was into Slipknot. He was into like progressive metal and stuff like that. And we made it a point to like just get together and because we were close to each other. Because Reddit is super impersonal. So we get along pretty well, I'd say, right? He's turned into a really good friend of mine. And Brandon's vision for music is something that I always enjoy talking to him about. And I know it's something that he takes a decent amount of pride in, is just how colorful his music is. My music is also very colorful, but it's really... I remember talking to him once about like unity and uniformity in music. He was like, I don't something that doesn't always resonate with me, but it's something that I was like, I'm like, yes, this is what it needs to be. Music needs to be the same shit over and over again. But because I like the idea of power in uniformity, right? But Brandon's mind works differently than mine. And that's one of the things I love about him is just, for as similar as we are, for as like good of buddies as we are, just he's his own person. And I don't think we've been on a similar path, and we've gone through a lot of the same sort of shit, same times, and being able to confide in him as a friend, and then, be able to speak my mind about what it is that I'm making, and like, the things that are just on my mind. I love him for that. There's no one I'd rather talk to about stuff when it comes to music, when it comes about just to relating to things about life. He's got a beautiful kid, and just a really good dude. I'm happy to have him in my life. Ian Dubson. Ian is the best drummer I know. He's fantastic. He would tell you any day of the week that he's not. But man, is he good. When I started Monolith, I always would say is I need someone that's is really just killer at what they do. I need a world-class drummer to do what I ask. And he does everything that I ask and more. He is a bit younger than me. He's got a bit more to learn about life and stuff, but he's got a really great outlook nowadays on what he wants to become. I'm really proud of him for taking the time to better himself, take the time to, work on his craft. And overall, I'm just really grateful to have a drummer that is not only as consistent as he is, as powerful and fast as he can be, but he's also someone that Brandon is that I can bounce ideas off of, and I get an opinion I trust back. I tasked him with a lot of crazy shit for this record, for The Great Calm. And, you know, he's committed to doing it. And I could never ask anything more of him to just, you know, to learn it. And, you know, even asking him to learn it is a tough ask. There's no one else I can ask. So grateful for that. Grateful for the dude. And like Brandon, I'm really happy to have him in my life. He's a good friend.
I think we're done.
All right.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.